So we are going to do cube root. Very, very similar. We're going to isolate the root first. So we want to isolate that. I'm trying to get to, is this mine? Yeah. So I have to move the 7 to the other side. To move the 7, I am going to subtract it. So 5 minus 7 is -2. Okay. What is the opposite of taking the cubed root? Can you tell me in the chat what's opposite of taking the cubed root? The opposite of square root is squaring it. So what's the opposite of cubed rooting? Tell me in the chat, what do you think? What do we think? I've got one person. There we go, 2 people. Keep it coming. Let's see. Remember, you get participation for putting it in the chat. All right, we are going to cube both sides. That's the opposite, right? We are cubing both sides there. Okay. All right. So we are undoing that. That basically cancels. So we get x plus 2 equals, and -2 cubed would be -2 times -2 times -2, which would be -8. And then I am going to move the 2 to the other side by subtracting it. So -8 minus 2 would be -10. Okay. We, as always, there aren't going to be extraneous solutions necessarily on this one, because a cubed root can equal a negative number, whereas a square root cannot equal a negative number. Okay. I'll pause for a second, let you guys catch that piece up, make sure you've got it written. We've only, I think, got 3 examples to do. Okay. Let's look at, look at all that space I gave you. Normally I don't give you enough space, but look at that. Way too much space, right? All right, let's look at this one. Some of my calculus kids are like probably sticky note on sticky note on sticky note. Sometimes you guys are that way too. So looking at this one, okay? Again, that's a cube root in here. I know it's fuzzy, okay? I don't know if I told you guys, I haven't seen you. Yesterday morning, I went in and I copied your next unit. So your next unit is sitting at the attendance office. You may go pick it up anytime. We will probably start using it Wednesday, Thursday next week. So get it before then, okay? So you are ready to go. I only got unit 8 done. We have another, but I haven't got the trig done. I'm hoping to get the rest of it done over the break. I know I say that never happens, but we're going to hope I get it done over the break, and then that way you can pick up one more time for the school year. Okay, hopefully, maybe 2. Okay, but hopefully I can get trig done so we get that whole bunch. So we're doing one other thing before trig. All right, how do I undo the cube root? Can you guys tell me? Oh, never mind. You just told me that in the chat. So let's do it. Let's cube it. Here's the catch. Nope, cube. When I cube the other side, I have to cube it, not just cube the x and cube the 1. That means I multiply it by itself, or I write it 3 times. Ooh, that's a killer, right? That means I need to FOIL and then some, okay? So let's actually try to simplify that a little bit. So I'm going to FOIL the first 2 together. So I'm doing some scratch work off to the side here. So I've got x squared. X times 1 would be 1x. I have another 1x. When I add those together, I get 2x. And then 1 times 1 would be 1. I still have to multiply that by x plus 1. If it was me, I would get out the box so I don't, or the area model, so I don't mess this up. So we're reviewing a lot of good stuff in this one single problem. This is why all those algebra skills we did first semester, super important, because everything here builds. Okay, wait till you see what algebra skills we put into trig. Okay. All right. Ooh, x times x squared would be x cubed. X times 2x would be 2x squared. X times 1 is x. 1 times x squared is x squared, or 1x squared. 1 times 2x is 2x, and 1 times 1 is 1. All right, remember, like 90% of the time, 95% of the time, your diagonals are your like terms. I'm going to finally write that over here, okay? So now that I've done my scratch work off to the side, so I've got x cubed, 1x squared plus 2x squared is 3x squared. 2x plus x would be 3x, and then plus 1. Now, just like solving a quadratic, when we solve a polynomial, which we worked with a little bit, okay, we need to get it equal to 0, okay? I'm going to pause for a second, make sure you're caught up. I tend to try to go speed of light on Wednesdays, and I want to get it done, but I also don't want to go speed of light on you. All right, so I know I am going to move the x to the other side by subtracting. I don't have any x cubes or x squared, so I'm just going to write it down. So 3x minus the x would be 2x. To move the 5, I'm going to add, so 1 plus 5 would be 6. All right, and it's equal to 0 here. All right, we have to get out our factoring, all right? We have 4 terms. Does anybody remember? So here's another question for the chat. What kind of factoring we have to use for 4 terms? We don't use it very often. So when we have 2 terms, we use difference of squares and some difference of cubes. Ooh, we've got some people in the chat that know what's going on. I didn't even have to go through all the possibilities. We are going to use what we call grouping. Nice job, everybody. All right. So grouping, I kind of draw a squiggle line to split my groups. It's basically greatest common factor amped up a little bit, right? So I'm going to do the greatest common factor of that first term, which would be x squared. And then left behind would be x plus 3. I'm looking at the greatest common factor of this second piece, which would be 2. When I divide that out, I'm left with x plus 3. All right. I see the ugly greatest common factor of x plus 3. I'm going to factor that out. When I factor that out, can you guys remind me how many times do I write that down when it gets factored out like a greatest common factor? You guys are amazing. You don't forget anything, do you? All right, I can't imagine what you guys are going to remind me of when we have in-person class next year and you all take calculus, right? So can't wait till you guys remind me of whatever that is. So and then we're left behind with x squared plus 2. Then what we are going to do is use our zero product property to get solutions, okay? So I'm going to set both of these equal to 0, okay? And I'm going to subtract the 3. Then we've got x squared equals -2. We're going to take the square root of both sides. And then over here, notice we have an I, right? It would be a plus minus. Now, likely what HMH is going to say is that this is the only real solution. They're not going to count the imaginary or the non-real solutions today. So the only solution to this is actually -3, okay? Because we couldn't plug that back in. This would be extraneous in this case because it didn't come out to be real, okay? You would, of course, want to, well, I guess cube root we don't have to check because we don't worry about the negatives. All right. We're going to skip the reflect statement. So we're going to skip over this, okay? Let's take a look at the your turn, okay? So it does not matter whether you have a cubed root or in this case a 1/3 power, that act exactly the same, okay? I have to isolate the root or the fractional exponent first. So what am I going to do first on this one before I do anything with cube rooting or cubing? What do I need to do first? Can you tell me in the chat? What do you guys think? We got to isolate first. So what's my first move of arithmetic here? Got a couple of different comments. I'm going to kind of keep it going another minute here, see what people think, because I want to address some of the comments that just popped up. All right, so super important that when we make a mistake, our brain grows, right? That's scientific research, all right? So we've got a couple of different, I see a couple of different things going on here, okay? So those of us that made mistakes, it's okay. Your brain is going to grow right now, okay? And that helps us learn. When our brain grows, we learn. So we are not allowed to distribute in whenever we have an exponent. so we cannot distribute this, okay? We want to try to isolate the thing with the 1/3 power or the root. So I want to move everything to the right side, not the left side. So I want to move the 2, not the 10, okay? So hopefully those of us that made a couple of mistakes, it's okay, your brain just grew, okay? So what I'm going to do, and normally I don't show this step, right? But I think in this one it's important. We're going to divide by 2. And you were also brave enough to put something in the chat, okay? So thank you for doing that and participating. All right, so 1/3 equals -10 divided by 2 is -5. Now that my fractional exponent / root is isolated, now we're going to cube both sides. I need to put, like, Mrs. Ballard changes colors 10 times in one problem on the bingo card. Okay, we're going to, those get canceled, so we get x minus 50 equals -5 times -5 times -5. What is it, guys? Tell me in the chat. What's -5 cubed? Watch your signs. -5 cubed. Tell me in the chat. I know you can all do that. And I want to make sure we at least all get 4 comments because it was super short today, right? All right. It is, in fact, you were all correct, -125. I am going to add the 50, so that gives me -75 as my final answer. And again, because we're in cubes, we don't have anything that's extraneous, okay? Are there any questions, comments, concerns about what we have seen today? I'll leave it there a couple seconds and then I'll scroll up here. Okay. Okay. Let's look. I think I'm going to have you do all of the elaborate questions. So you're doing all 3 of these when you answer in your notes. Okay.